Justin bringing you
Top of the morning from beautiful downtown Baltimore.
Hi, the top of the morning.
The top of the morning to all of you. Hi, top of the morning. Top of the morning. I'm Aaron Marcus,
And I'm Cindy O'Farrell.
and as you can hear, we are at the World Trade Center in downtown Baltimore. You can hear a lot of people running through here for the top of the morning show. And our next guest is Maggie Linton.
And wow, Aaron, wow.
That's my book, How to Become a Successful Commercial Model. And Maggie, who is the program director for XM Sirius Radio, she has her own show, the Maggie Linton Show, and I was fortunate enough to be interviewed by her. And she talked about my book, How to Become a Successful Commercial Model. Pretty cool.
And the tables have turned. Aaron's going to be interviewing her.
Yeah, she's going to be on the hot seat this time. I'll be the Larry King here.
So you don't want to.
Hey, Maggie.
Yes. We'll be right back. Come on back now.
See you soon. We are working with Maggie Linton, who is a producer for Sirius XM Radio on the Book Radio station. So, I'd like to welcome you back.
Thank you. It's always fun to be with you.
It is fun. Actually, I've had an opportunity to be interviewed on your show, so there's a nice little
Very true.
turnaround. So, you gotta tell us,
Tables turned.
as a producer on a radio show, what exactly are your responsibilities?
Well, actually, I'm even more than a producer. I'm the program director for the channel. And what we do is we book authors, and the whole channel is geared toward books. So we book authors, and then we try and set up interviews with them, and we do it through one of 4 shows. One show is my show, the Maggie Linton Show, and you've been on my show as well as another one that we do called Cover to Cover Live. And basically it's to get authors in, talk about their books, and it's done live at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesdays and replays on Sunday afternoons at 3. So I'm not listening today. And it is a service, it is a pay service. But we have about 48 million people that listen to us around the world.
And I'm sure some of them are up here at the top of the world. You guys may hear them talking because it's a public venue, so please excuse that. I would love to know, Maggie, what are some of the most influential authors that you've had the pleasure of interviewing on your show?
Well, you talk about me.
Exactly. Hillary Clinton,
Oh, wow.
Taylor Branch, who is famous for most of his civil rights type literature, Robert Wagner, Diane Carroll, Dionne Warwick.
Wow.
And these are all people that have written books. Now, Dionne's book is actually, it's called Say a Little Prayer, and it's written for children.
Oh, wow.
And she talks about her first time of actually performing, which was actually in her grandfather's church, and she sung Jesus Loves Me. And so it's on audio, and she actually sings Jesus
Oh, and
Loves
she
Me
is a
along
beautiful
with it.
singer.
Yeah.
Woo.
And then you get the bonus track, Say a Little Prayer. So, I mean, I've talked to a number of people, and I just love talking to authors because they all have very interesting stories about the books that they're writing, but also how their lives, in a sense, entwine in books. Just give you an example. I just talked with an author named James Gripondo. He's written like about 19 books, and his latest book is called Money to Burn, and it has a lot to do with the financial crisis and stuff that goes on. But there's also identity theft in there, only to find out that James really did have his identity stolen.
Oh, wow.
And while he was in the midst of writing this book, his father was dying. And so there's a little bit of, a father relationship going on also within that book. And he says it was really kind of an homage to his dad at the same time. So you never really know what's going on in someone's life and how well they can incorporate it into a book. And I just love, I tell people I'm the luckiest person in the world because not only do I get a chance to read books for a living, but then I get to interview the people who
wrote them.
And once again, the book is called Money to Burn. It's by James Grappando, and it's on audio as well as, a regular book, so people can really enjoy both.
No, I'm curious, do you find that in today's time period, the technology has changed a lot since you started
Oh my
working
God,
in these-
yes. That is an understatement. There were no computers when I started. We typed everything, and I actually started out in radio at the University of Kansas, and I was doing sports. And I was the first woman to actually do sports on television in Wichita, St. Louis, and also in Washington, D.C. Now, that's been a long time ago, but, there were no computers, there were no satellite trucks, there were, and when they said film at 11, they meant film at 11, because we'd have to go out and shoot, come back home, run it through a processor, and there were like 6 or 8 editors who would sit there and, put everything together. And so it's been really fascinating to see how far the business has gone. I mean, geez, I'm on satellite radio now. There was no satellite radio. It was AM and barely FM when I started. So
But you also,
it's changed
you
dramatically.
and I don't know if you still do this anymore, but
Yeah.
I know we've done industrial films
Oh,
together,
yeah.
you've done TV
Still do
commercials,
those.
you've done commercial modeling.
Yeah.
You do, a lot of acting work.
Exactly. Well, I don't do as much acting work anymore now that I have a full-time job. When we were working, I used to, 13 years I did nothing but freelance work, and it was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we worked on Homicide together, which was shot here in Baltimore, Homicide: Life on the Street. And the final 3 seasons, I was actually a squad room secretary. Well, we didn't say anything. We just walked around, deep background, sometimes a little closer, but it was a lot of
It
fun.
must be great though, because now you're in a position where, not only do you work as producer, you're program director,
Right.
you're coming up with the concepts, you're the one who's making choices as to who you want to interview, because that's going to make it much more enjoyable for you. That must make life a whole lot
It does.
nicer to have control.
We
of
were
it.
just in New York, talking to a number of audio book publishers, because we're really trying to get people more into audio listening. It used to be cassettes, and then it went to CDs. Now it's downloadable apps and something else that didn't exist when I started 30-some years ago. And so people are finding books much more fascinating now. I do a lot of driving, even sometimes when I'm home, cleaning or something like that. I'll have a book running all the time. It'll drive my husband a little crazy occasionally, but it's just amazing how much a book can come to life for people when they normally aren't doing it.
So you feel that it comes out more when you hear it versus read it?
I like listening. I love reading too, though, because the pictures are in our heads.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Well, as you can hear, we have a lot of people walking through the World Trade Center here, and we will be coming back in just a minute.
Guess you've got nothing to lose. Won't you let me take you on a sea cruise? Ooh-wee, baby.
Captain Larry is on the bridge, ready to begin your harbor cruise.
That's fine, sir.
Your tour begins in Baltimore's historic harbor, a short puddle jump from the Maryland Science Center. As we sail out of the harbor and throughout the cruise, you'll learn little-known facts, like did you know we're not in the Chesapeake Bay? We're sailing along the Patapsco River. From our starboard side, that's the right side for you land lovers, we'll see Federal Hill, where the federal Constitution was ratified and where modern-day revolutionaries like to party all night. The really hip museum on the right is called the American Visionary Arts Museum. To display work here, you have to have raw talent, no formal training allowed. Around the bend is the old Bethlehem Steel Shipyard, which built Liberty ships during World War II. The Harbor View condos are built where the shipyard used to be. The Baltimore Museum of Industry highlights Charm City's contributions to our nation's workforce. Check out Baltimore's first fire tug, which celebrates its 100th birthday in 2006. Got a sweet tooth? Then you'll love hearing about the Domino Sugar Plant. We'll sail beside a true war hero, the naval ship Comfort, which is just back from treating wounded soldiers in Iraq. Oh, say can you see Fort McHenry? This is the birthplace of the Star-Spangled Banner. At the Francis Scott Key Bridge, the captain turns around, but there's much more to see. The Port of Baltimore. The gold domes of St. Michael's Ukrainian Orthodox Church. Fells Point. Inner Harbor East. The Coast Guard cutter Taney, the last ship to survive Pearl Harbor. And as we're pulling into port, there's the world-famous National Aquarium.
So be guess you've got nothing to lose. Won't you let me take you on a sea cruise? Ooh-wee.
Okay, we're coming back. We're talking with Maggie Linton, who is the program director for Sirius XM Book Radio, producer, show host, wears many hats here. So I'm
Can't
curious.
keep a job.
No, you keep too many, that's the
Yeah,
problem.
exactly.
So I'm curious, so somebody's an author, they want to be interviewed by you. How does that whole process work?
They can contact us directly, or in most cases, their publicist contacts us, and they either send us a long, description by email, or we can, get the book as a preview copy, or they can send us the audio, which we love. I love having audio.
You prefer that over getting a hard copy of the book?
Not necessarily. I really like having both. But whenever possible, I do like to, because it does take you a little bit longer to listen to a book. And the main reason why is you can't, skip over some of the descriptions. It's like, I don't need to know how great the mountains are and things like that, because
I got it.
But yeah, and that may take up 2 or 3 paragraphs, but you're still listening to them say that. And so, with a book, you can kind of move along a little bit
Well,
faster.
also you can see the cover too. I assume that would
Yeah.
kind of grab your attention a little bit, or see
most
credits on the
often when you
back.
get the audio is the front cover of the book.
And it will look
It comes up.
exactly,
Yeah.
and it would have the same credits on the back and all the
Exactly,
testimonials.
exactly. And the only other thing that's added is it will say who the audio narrator is. And I do have my favorite narrators,
Oh, who is
and I
that?
have it. Well, Jonathan Davis, who does James Carpondel's book, Ron McClarty, who does all of David Baldacci's books. David is a very close friend now, just a top named author all around the world, and I mean, he now calls me and says, "Can my books come on the air?" And we have great relationships with a number of different authors, and it's funny because authors now listen to our shows, and there's an author out named Andrew Gross, and he heard Philip Margolian on our channel, and he called his publicist to tell her to call us because he wanted to be on when his new book came out, and so he's booked now for April. So
Now, I'm curious,
that's what
when
happens.
people are recording the audiobooks, does the actor actually try to change the voice for the character tremendously, or?
Yeah, some do. Some it's if it's a guy who's reading a part, and for a woman's voice, he may raise it slightly, or the nuances within the language, just like you and I talk differently than a number of other people. That's the same way an author does. To me, the best audio performer that almost ever existed was a woman named Anna Fields. And she did all of the books for Susan Elizabeth Phillips. And Anna died tragically in an accident a couple of years ago. But when she listened to it, you could hear her be the man. If there was something that had to be done in audio with music or something, she would sing it in a completely different voice. A child's voice would be different. And each character had their own distinctive voice, and I don't know anybody else that does them quite like she does. Oh, except for one woman, Catherine Kellegren is her name. And she has a tendency to do more young adult books. And she is fabulous, especially with accents, Irish, Jewish, things like that, the distinctive-ness. She's an absolutely
It sounds like a very
fabulous actor.
difficult process,
It is.
to be able to do it. I wonder, is it work kind of in the same way with film work, where you try to get through, a page a day? I'm assuming that
For an average, say, like 300 or 400 page book, most of the audio narrators that I know take anywhere from 3 to 4 days to a week. And there is a full-time producer and director that sit there with these people to make sure that the words are being said correctly and things like that. I mean, sometimes I tune in and the narrator is just not somebody I want to listen to, and I can't stand them. It's just like a book that you pick up, and it's like, I don't want this phrase, and you just go on and move on
that's
to somebody
incredible,
else.
because that it certainly can complicate things for an author.
And there are also multi-voice recordings too. A number of them are out there, like all of the Orson Scott Card books. I shouldn't say all of them, but the majority of them are done with multicast voices.
And so, Maggie, I'm sorry, do you know how people could get involved as far as actors are concerned to be able to do the audio book characters and stuff
Well,
like that?
the best way is again go to your agents. There are people who do it. Also, looking it up on the web. There's the Audio Publishers Association, the APA, and you can go there and find out a lot too. And you know that within our area, in the Baltimore, Washington area, there are a number of people who are doing audiobooks. And another way for you to do it is to, let publishers know that you are available, but you have to make an audio recording in order to send it in to
Okay,
them.
so it's sort of like a real.
Yeah, and believe me when I tell you, you got to work through a lot of people because there are a number of people now that are just doing audiobooks.
Right.
But it's really not a nasty business. But also there are authors who have their preferred person to read, and that they're locked up.
And so, it's unfortunate because you said that you've gotten some audiobooks where the narrator is you just don't
Not who I want to listen to.
Yeah, I mean, do you instead read the book?
No.
Or do you don't even want to bother with the story at all?
No, yeah, sometimes no, I'll still go ahead and read the book.
Okay.
I shouldn't say no, because a lot of times when I'm getting the audio, it's somebody I'm going to be doing an interview with anyway. So I will go ahead and read the book, but I don't always get a chance to listen to the audio. It's that's what happens. That's the nature of our business.
Excuse me, we're going to take a little bit of a break right now. We'll be coming back to ask more questions and talk with Maggie Linton.
Won't you let me take you on a sea cruise? Ooh-wee, baby.
The Prince Charming is our third vessel in our fleet of 3 boats. He is our smallest vessel and holds comfortably between 75 and 125 guests. The boat is perfectly suited for field trips, small group events, weddings, corporate charters, and other events of that size. Let's step aboard. You'll see that the Prince boasts a beautiful wooden bar that wraps around the first deck. It is a centerpiece of this space. Also, is a seating area for 40 guests. This is where half of your guests will be able to sit during your cruise. The stern of the Prince Charming can accommodate an additional 40 to 50 guests. This is a beautiful place to enjoy your dinner and just look out the windows and watch the world go by. The top deck of the Prince Charming is everyone's favorite. The open air view is magnificent and the cool breeze is something everyone looks forward to. This is the perfect space for a wedding ceremony, a video presentation, speaker, or the dance floor for the rest of your evening. The Prince Charming hosts 4 daily 1-hour cruise a day during our season, April through October. The boat is perfect for student groups, senior groups, and tourists from all over the world. If you're a group between 65 and 125, the Prince Charming is really the ideal place for you.
So be my guest, you've got nothing to lose. Won't you let me take you on a sea cruise?
We're back talking with Maggie Linton, who is the program director of Sirius XM Book Radio. She has her own show, The Maggie Linton Show. That's a very, very interesting name. How did you come up with that name for your show?
Well, I kept trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I thought, you know what, Oprah's got one, and Jaylen's one. It's like...
Should just be
why not?
Maggie.
Yeah.
Just be Maggie, nothing
Yeah.
else. So I've got a question for you. It sounds like a lot of the people that you interview on your show, you were talking about they go through their publishing company. Are there many people that get to you who are self-published? Like I'm self-published.
Yeah.
Or do you get many people who?
We always get those, and a lot of, and I have to say, I work with a woman named Kim Alexander, and she and I kind of make the decisions together. If somebody's got a cool cover or a unique title, that has a tendency to kind of spark our interest, and then both of us will kind of glance through the book and decide pretty quickly as to whether we aren't into it. Like she's into fiction. She has a show. Her show is called Fiction Nation, and she really seeks out authors, in particular women who are doing fiction and often, first-time authors. And so she likes fiction, sci-fi, that kind of thing. And I like everything from memoirs, autobiographies, business, finance, definitely into mysteries. And I'm into trashy novels too. Jackie Collins, those kind of folks.
And Aaron, what's your novel about? What is it?
Well, it's not. It's called
not a
How to Become a Successful Commercial Model.
Okay.
And
Which is a great book. That's the reason why I had him on.
Well, thank you very much. It was really fun. It was fun being interviewed by an actor
Yeah.
and a commercial model who really, understood what the industry was all about, and you were able to ask some really, really straightforward questions about the business, and not just, kind of vague things.
No, well, again, your book is a self-help book, which is another kind of genre that
I
I
love
like in
self-help,
particular.
yes,
because people are always trying to better themselves, or they'll call, which you guys know, you got calls that day, about how can I get into this, and people still have a tendency to think that it's a really glamorous sort of thing to be a model and do that kind of thing, and it is kind of fun.
Absolutely.
But you got to do your homework, and if you don't lay a solid foundation, your career is never going to go anywhere, which you know. That's part of the reason why you wrote the book, is to help people out, because they kept coming to you going, how do you get that, how many times have you been asked, well, how do you do it? Like you just asked me, how do you do it? And your book tells them from point A to point Z what they should do, how they should do it. Whether they always follow your direction, who knows?
But one of the things that was really interesting, because I remember during the interview, you really took that information about commercial modeling and acting, but you broadened it out where you start really talking about making life choices, going after your dreams.
That's right.
Don't hold back on doing things you'll regret it, and so you really took into a very different kind of direction, which I
well,
thought was great.
Being born a black woman in the 50s,
Wow.
and coming up during that time. But I grew up in very integrated surroundings. I grew up in Kansas. And so right from the very beginning, my parents said, you can't use your gender or your color as an excuse for anything.
I know that's right.
And so when I first started doing sports, everybody said, oh, you're not going to do it. But I went to the coaches, I went to Ted Owens, who was the head basketball coach at the University of Kansas at that point, and Don Fambro, who headed the football team. And I can't remember who the guy was with the track team, but I went to the coaches first and I said, look, I'm just starting out in my career. Will you let me interview your athletes? Well, I was dating someone. But, you still had to ask permission, and they were wonderful to me. And to this day, Ted Owens and I are still good friends. And whenever we see each other, or I get it, we email each other. And that's something that is very special. And a number of the athletes and I was in school during the time when JoJo White, who played for the Boston Celtics, and Bud Stallworth, who played for the Utah Jazz, were in school, and we became friends, and we're still friends to this day. And John Riggins, whom everybody has heard of, well, I used to live next door to John's brother, Junior, when we were in college together. And so we still keep up with each other. And John and I, in fact, both work for Sirius XM. So you develop friendships. You don't let what other people think about you stand in your way. And you just keep knocking on doors.
That's right.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I remember when I first decided it was time for me to start heading to New York
Yeah.
for work, and so many people were saying, you think they're going to really need you in New York? They already have 10 million people. You live in Baltimore. You're going to get your heart broken.
That's right.
And I just decided, you know what? If I don't try it, if I don't give it a shot, I'll never know. And I did not want to be haunted for the rest of my life. And fortunately, I was very lucky and found an agent and started working immediately up there. And to this day, I still work in New York.
Well, I always say if you don't knock, no one's ever going to open the door.
That's right.
Now, it may be shut for a while. You may only get the crack on the window, but you've got to try.
But it's incredible, the successes that you've had along the way. I mean, you were doing news. You were even doing traffic for a period of time, weren't
traffic
you?
and weather. And I didn't necessarily start doing it at XM. I was doing it there was a real on-TV channel in D.C. that covered D.C. and Northern Virginia. And, started
But the
doing
thing that's so
traffic.
amazing, it's like, how do you learn? It's like you just seem to find these different avenues
I love
and
to
just
drive,
do
and
it.
I could get around, and I can talk.
But
That
I just
kind of
mean, you
thing.
just seem to be able to just you don't open, you kick the doors down.
Well,
and then,
I'll give you an example. Years ago, there was a woman from here in Baltimore named Barbara Ham, and she was my actual intern when I started at WBAL. And Barbara and I remained friends. Years later, she's now news director for WTKR in Norfolk, Virginia. And I had gotten a chance to go down and do an audition for a grocery store chain, 42 grocery stores all along the eastern shore of Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, and North Carolina. and it was called Camilla Foods. So I went down, did the whole, you know, the audition, and they liked me, and they knew that Barb knew something about me, and they said, well, how is she to work with? And they said, oh, she's great to work with, because I never treated Barb like she was an intern. There's no one person that puts on one TV show, one radio thing.
Yeah,
you know, we all have to do so many things together, and this is a business you don't burn bridges. If you do, you don't get hired.
Right.
And so, you know, I went to the audition, and they really liked it because, number one, I had memorized the commercial. How awesome is that? You know what I'm talking about. You memorize the commercial. I went there, I did it, you know, straight into the camera. And that one thing that was supposed to last for basically 2 months turned into a 2.5-year on-camera spokesperson for a 42-store grocery chain.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I had to go down to Norfolk about once every 2 or 3 weeks, but that was a steady gig, along with the full-time job that I had at that time. So it was fabulous.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
We are going to take a little bit of a break. We will be coming back to talk with Maggie Linton. See you soon. We are back. We're talking with Maggie Linton, who is the program director. She is the producer of Sirius XM Book Radio. She has her own show, The Maggie Linton Show, and great to be with her.
Maggie, let us know what's in the future for you.
Jeez. God only knows. You know, a lot of travel with work now because we cover a lot of book fairs.
Okay.
We were in New York talking about the Book Expo, also the Audio Publishers Association. They're going to be having a big convention in DC, and we're going to be helping them with that. But, you know, I'll tell people out there, you know, listen to us. It's Sirius 117, XM 163. We have an iPhone app, and if you have a subscription, you can listen on your computer. So,
And when is the show on?
well, my show is on 3
Tuesday live, right?
Tuesdays at 3 for Cover to Cover Live, but my specific show is on Monday evenings at 7, Wednesdays at 8 o'clock in the morning, and Saturdays at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Those are all East Coast times.
And I assume they can just go to the web.
They can
and
go
see.
to our Facebook page, which is Sirius XM Book Radio, or you can go to xmradio.com. Go to Book Radio, and you'll find us there.
And does
So-
Maggie Linton have a Facebook page?
Yeah, kinda. I'm there smiling, but you know, again, I'm trying to still keep up with this
I
technology.
know.
It's a whole different thing, and I'm not totally on top of it, but it's been fun. It's a great business.
Well, thank you very much for being
Aaron,
here. This
it's
is
always
wonderful.
good. It's good being interviewed by you. Change of pace.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
That was really something.
Yes, you're great.
Yeah, actually. I am Aaron Marcus.
And I'm Cindy O'Farrell, and I just want to know, how can we get your book?
Oh, you can get my book by going to my website, howtomodel.com. Pretty cool.
What a fabulous episode. This was so informational. I've got so much information. You're just a fabulous person. I love you.
Thank you. Oh, that's really sweet.
And what a great episode. So we will see you guys another time. You have a wonderful day.
And a wonderful night as well. And we will see you really soon because we've got other guests coming up that you're going to love.